So today, our subject matter is lucid dreaming. Can it show us how we create experience? And so we'll get into this as we go along here, but I did want to mention that in the background, probably on the chat, you'll find Ed Kellogg and Jillian Thetford. They're two colleagues of mine who serve as co-instructors oftentimes when I do webinars. And so I always value the viewpoint and ideas of Ed and Jillian. They're just great people and great lucid dreamers. So recently in the mail, I received a book from Andy Clark, who's a professor of cognitive philosophy at the University of Sussex in the UK. And you can see the title of the book, this is the front cover, The Experience Machine, How Our Minds Predict and Shape Reality. And so in the preface of the book, you see this lovely quote from Andy Clark. According to the new theory called predictive processing, reality as we experience it is built from our own predictions. And so it's a wonderful book in providing some of the newer psychological studies about perception and processing of information. And oftentimes, as you read this book, you really wonder, do we experience reality? Or is it more accurate to say that we experience our mind? When we think about the mind, many of us go back to Freud's metaphor of the iceberg, that the conscious mind is everything above the water, about a third of the iceberg, and then immediately below the water is the subconscious or preconscious, and then the bulk of the mind or the iceberg is the unconscious processes. And so, of course, Freud developed a psychodynamic process to show how the id and the ego and the superego, along with the libido and instincts and irrational urges, all work together in this viewpoint. But in his idea, Freud put dreaming in the unconscious. He put irrational urges and instincts in the unconscious, slips of the tongue. All that was unconscious territory. But what I want to say is that ever since lucid dreaming came along, I think we have to think about this differently. Because now, with lucid dreaming, we become lucidly aware within what Freud would call the unconscious mind. And so it makes me wonder if lucid dreaming shouldn't be able to illuminate the role of the unconscious in terms of creating experience. And I think it does. So just to get to the definition of lucid dreaming, a lucid dream is any dream in which the sleeper is aware that he or she is dreaming and may be able to influence the progress of the dream narrative. So that's from the American Psychological Association Dictionary. Most of us would say a lucid dream is any dream in which you realize within the dream that you're dreaming. You know, hey, wait a second, how'd I get to Japan? Oh, this is a dream. You know it's a dream. So consider a normal dream. You're walking down the city sidewalks and all of a sudden a dinosaur appears. What do? Normally what you do in a normal dream is you react. You might run away, you might fight the dinosaur, you create a story. Oh, the dinosaur got loose from the museum, or some mad scientist created this dinosaur from DNA strands or whatever. But what you lack in a normal dream is high levels of critical awareness. You just basically go along with whatever happens, and that's where a normal dream takes you. So in a lucid dream, you'd have that moment of realization. You'd go, what, a dinosaur? This has to be a dream. So at that moment that you become lucidly aware, oftentimes you realize that you can make choices. You can fly away, you can punch the dinosaur in the nose, you could ask the dinosaur, hey, what do you represent? And see what it has to say. You can explore, you can experiment. Not only can you do personal experiments, you can also do scientific experiments. But you can use this time to learn about the nature of dreaming, the nature of the unconscious, and also see all the potential that's available within a lucid dream. So I'm sure a lot of you know the scientific proof for lucid dreaming emerges in the late 70s. through the work of Keith Hearn at the University of Hull and also Stephen LaBerge at Stanford. But both of them separately came up with much the same idea, that you could validate whether lucid dreaming occurred by bringing people into the sleep lab, putting rapid eye movement polygraph pads on their eyes, and telling them before they go to sleep, if you become lucidly aware, move your eyes left to right 8 times, and that'll create such a unique signal on the rapid eye movement polygraph pad readout that it'll show that you're consciously aware within the dream. And they have these other measures to make sure the person remains in the sleep state. And here you can see the LOC and ROC. And here in the second level, the person's moving their eyes in tandem, totally unusual, shows they're lucidly aware. Here in this particular case, on the third bar, we see the eyes moving again left, right, and the person saying, I'm beginning the experiment. And here at the end of the fourth bar, you see the eyes being moved again, I'm ending the experiment. And then you see the person signaling they're going to wake up, and they wake up. So here's a lovely example from one of Stephen LaBerge's papers about how the scientific evidence emerged about lucid dreaming. There's a lot of research on lucid dreaming scientifically. There's just this one that I wanted to show from Ursula Voss in Germany, J. Allen Hobson at Harvard, and others. But they brought a lucid dreamer into the sleep lab. They put a 19-channel EEG, electroencephalogram, skull cap on him. And first they took measurements of when the person was awake, like we are now. And you can see the upper layer of the brain, the cerebral cortex, is quite active. Then they took an image of the EEG of the cerebral cortex when they were having a regular dream, like we would have anytime. And you can see how the cerebral cortex is relatively not very active. But then when the person signaled with their eyes that they were lucidly aware, then we see this appear here in the middle. The cerebral cortex, at least the prefrontal portions, become activated, and they called lucid dreaming a hybrid state of consciousness, because the normal dreaming functions were processing as normal, but aspects of the conscious awareness had also come online. But it's interesting to see there's a lot of research on lucid dreaming, and I always encourage people to explore it. But one question that people often have is lucid dreaming natural? And so I always go to this particular research by Ursula Voss, where she interviewed 694 German school children, ages 6 to 19. And what she discovered was 51% could give her a lucid dream account. And what I found fascinating is that more than 20% of the 8-year-olds could report a lucid dream. So no one had taught them, no one had explained how to work within a lucid dream. It just happened naturally and spontaneously. And so that's the idea that I want to get across in this slide. Also, when people look at lucid dreaming around the world, they'll find that normally if you ask a class of introductory to psychology college students, about 70% in America will report at least having one lucid dream, about 82% in Germany, 73% in the Netherlands, and 47% Japan. But anyway, I just want to get across that it is relatively commonly reported. But when they get to ask, do you have frequent lucid dreams, at least one lucid dream a month, then about 25% of that group says, oh yeah, I have at least one lucid dream a month. So at this point, people often ask, well, why would anyone want to bother with lucid dreaming? And that's why I wrote my first book, just to show the potential of lucid dreaming. And so first I would say you have the capacity to have a lot of fun, and it allows you also to access inner creativity in a lucid dream. Also, when you become aware within a lucid dream, if you know how to do it, you can use it to promote emotional healing. And recently, IONS came out with scientific results of their work with PTSD, people with post-traumatic stress disorder, recurring nightmares, and it showed a profound relief when people started to practice and learn about lucid dreaming in terms of the number of nightmares they reported. They just went down significantly. Also, you can use lucid dreaming, I feel, to promote physical healing, to access an inner awareness, to explore the nature of reality from the inside the dream, and also to perform spiritual practices. So there's a lot of things. It's truly an open platform when you get into lucid dreaming. Now, one thing people who have read my book would know that one analogy I came up with is that the sailor does not control the sea. Neither does the lucid dreamer control the dream. So it's true you can influence and manipulate things, but to say that you control it just seems too big of a word. So like a sailor who has to deal with the winds and the currents and their ship and their own sailing ability, normally they'll get where they need to go, but they have to relate to all of that. Also in a lucid dream, you have to, I would say, relate not only to the dreaming, to the unconscious, but also the nature of your own belief system and your mind. So it's not control, it's more aware relating. So here we see an example of this. Let's say you became lucidly aware tonight, and all of a sudden you see a gold window, and you fly through the gold window in your lucid dream. On the other side, you see a castle in the clouds. Now, who created the castle in the clouds? You didn't. You flew through the gold window. So what we see in lucid dreaming is that there's this automatic creativity that's normally ongoing. You're relating to the unconscious, and oftentimes surprising things happen. So relating, yes. Absolute control, no. So now we're getting into personal creativity. So how do you create in a lucid dream? Well, most of us realize that you can intend an action in a lucid dream, but you still have to use your beliefs. So for example, let's say you became lucidly aware and decided to fly through that brick wall to go exploring. Now, if you believe that brick wall is nothing but dream stuff and poses no barrier, you'll fly right through it easily. But if you fly up to the brick wall and believe that it seems hard and durable and very rigid, oftentimes you'll bounce off of that brick wall. So what happens in a lucid dream is connected to your beliefs. And it's like that quote from the New Testament, as you believe, so shall it be. And that's really what you discover oftentimes in the lucid dream state, is that your beliefs frame what is possible within the lucid dream. And so it oftentimes comes back to you to look at your beliefs in order to achieve what you want to achieve. Also, we create our experience within a lucid dream by the use of expectations. So let's say you're flying along in the lucid dream and all of a sudden you see a group of people down on the beach at sunset. Now, if you expect that, oh, these are my friends, they're having a beach party, you'll fly down there and chances are it'll be a friendly group of people getting ready to have a beach party. But if you fly over this group and think, oh, they look like an angry mob, then if you land on the beach, you'll be confronted, chances are, by an angry mob. So in lucid dreaming, you learn that you have to use your expectations. If you don't like what you expect to experience, then you have to flip your expectation to have a different kind of experience. So what you learn in a lucid dream is you get what you expect. And that's just a commonality across lucid dreamers all around the world. The other way that you create within a lucid dream is on how you use your focus. So let's say you became lucidly aware and you flew into a room and you saw these 4 scenes. Well, we have apparently a spiritual gentleman meditating in a cave. Over there, we see 2 people having a passionate tango. Over there on the table, we see a chocolate torte, looks very nice. And then, oh, there on the horizon, there looks like a boat that's getting ready to set sail. what do you, as the lucid dreamer, focus on? So if you're hungry, you might focus on the dessert. Or if you're interested in a passionate relationship, you might focus on the tango. Or if you want to explore something spiritual, you might go talk to the man who's meditating and glowing from within. In a lucid dream, you learn that you need to harness your focus, because what you focus on is where the path of that lucid dream is going to go to. Right now, they're all probable paths, but as soon as you select one, then you've kind of created the next pieces of the lucid dream. So you learn how to use your focus. So in this example, we learn how we create by the use of intent and will. And I remember one of Keith Hearn's first lucid dreamers, Alan Worsley. He was such an experienced lucid dreamer that he said, instead of him flying to that nearby hillside or that nearby castle, he would literally bring the castle to him. Why should he fly? It's a mentally mediated environment. He would just use his intent to bring the castle to him. And so that's another factor that you learn within lucid dreaming, how to use your intent, how to use your will to make things happen by intending them to be or by willing them to come about. So there's wonderful examples of that capacity. But altogether, I would say that lucid dreaming begins to teach us and educate us in how to use the mind. We learn how to use our beliefs, our expectations, our focus, our intent, our will. We learn how to use all of these in order to create experience. And so I believe at a deeper level of the unconscious is also working within this framework of belief, expectations, focus, intent, in order to determine what gets created and exactly how it gets created. Now, within a lucid dream, as I mentioned at the beginning, there's a lot of automatic creativity, and it's oftentimes unconscious creativity. I remember once I became lucidly aware, and I was looking at an angry Rottweiler that was growling and snarling right at me. But because I knew it was a dream, I realized that it's a dream Rottweiler. And so then I had to think, how do I respond to this situation? And so I began to send this angry dog, I began to send it ideas of compassion and peace. And all of a sudden, this angry Rottweiler began to shrink down. And the more I sent it peace and compassion, the more it began to shrink. And suddenly it changed into a little dachshund like we had when I was a kid. And I went and picked it up and took it flying around the dream space. So again, within a lucid dream, you have that capacity of how you want to respond. There was a gentleman named Mike, who was an engineer who I interviewed for our magazine, The Lucid Dreaming Experience. And he told me that his dreams were filled with nightmares and battles all the time. And so because of that, he became lucidly aware as a child in order to deal with all the conflict in his dreams. And so I asked him, well, what'd you do? And he said, normally I'd either fight the angry figure or I'd run away. That's all I ever did in my lucid dreams. But then he said he read my second book and saw that, I had a different way of responding to angry dream figures. You send them what they lack, love or compassion or peace or whatever it was. And he said he began to do that in all of his lucid dreams. And the amazing thing was, he said that suddenly his dreams began to change. His lucid dreams were now becoming much more peaceful and much less aggressive. But he also noticed at work, the people that he had problems with, his coworkers, suddenly he wasn't having problems with them anymore. And then his family that he kind of considered a bit dysfunctional, all of a sudden they quit arguing and fighting all the time too. And in fact, they began to explore spiritual pursuits. So again, this resolving things on an inner level by deciding how you're going to respond oftentimes can make dramatic outside changes. And it goes along with that alchemical idea as within, so without. And so it's important to think about how to respond.